Hey guys, Cohen here. Hope you had a great holiday. Hope you had a great New Year's. We actually had a party here at our house for New Year's. We had some good family, good friends that came by, and we were just talking about vacations. Like, what vacations are we going to take this year coming into 2023? And I think about a year ago, maybe about 2 years ago. How long ago was it, Mel? Do you remember when we had signed up for that vacation plan in Mexico? So, do you remember? No? So maybe about a year ago, 2 years ago, we were at the Hard Rock Cafe somewhere in Mexico. We had signed up for a vacation plan. It was basically, like 50% or so off of your next vacation. So long story short, I'm saying to my wife, like, we should plan to finally put that in place because we had never used it. And as I'm searching my emails for the information on that plan that we had purchased, I come across an email from someone who used to be a really good friend of mine, a guy by the name of Darius. And if you don't know me, right, so I actually got started in marketing and selling a significant number of products by advertising in magazines. So I used to advertise in the back of magazines called like The Source magazine, which was music related, a hip hop related magazine. Double XL, which was another one. And when I first started advertising in the back of these magazines, I was selling a program called 101 Music Business Contracts for musicians and artists and singers and just anyone that was in the music business, from managers to promoters to record label owners, executives. And as I would place ads, I would see, at this time I was studying copywriting, I was studying marketing, I was studying all of the elements needed to craft copy and to be able to really have your ads stand out from all of the other millions of advertisers that would be found in these magazines. And there was one other ad that I would see month after month after month after month that stood out. It had the headlines, it had the bullet points, it had the call to actions. It truly followed like the AIDA principle, right? AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. And for months, I'm wondering, and I'm like, who the hell is putting out these ads? Like, these ads are really, really good. And long story short, I get a call from someone, and it's this guy, Darius. And he says, hey, I'm trying to find the owner of the 101 Music Business Contracts company. And of course, I said, that's me. And he says, man, first thing out of his mouth was similar to like something like, man, your ads are like killing it. Would you mind talking about copy? And we just sat and we talked for maybe about 2 hours on the phone. And if you know me, talking for 2 hours on the phone is something that I would hardly do unless it's, it was something that I was passionate about, and that was copywriting at the time. Copywriting is still something that I'm super, super passionate about. And that was the beginning of our friendship, right? So we ended up multiple times, probably about 100 times since then. We would talk on the phone about product creation, offer creation, copywriting, building out programs, building out content. And over the years, he had seen me build out different businesses. So I went from the music space to more of a traditional information marketing, internet marketing space, where I started selling courses and coaching and subscriptions and things of that sort. And he would always say, Ty, you know what? I want to model what you're doing, man. I want to take what I'm doing here with my products and my courses and kind of use what you're doing as my basis, as my model here. And I always thought that this guy was incredibly brilliant. Like, think about your traditional copywriters, right? The Gary Halberts or Gary Benzabangers. I could tell that he was a serious student of the craft. And he was a super young guy, super, super, super young guy. He was younger than me, as a matter of fact, by, I don't know, maybe about 10 years or so. So I would always say to him, like, Darius, man, like, if you come into this space, you would do really well, because he cared about the customer and he was great at selling. Like, you would kill it. You do extremely well. You build up a huge community. You build up a huge following. You make a ton of money, right? You'd have like the best of all worlds. And he would always say, I'm getting it right. I'm getting it right. I'm working on this. I'm planning it out. You know, I'm crossing all of the T's, dotting all of the I's. And he would send me copies of his plans, and he would send me his course material that he was working on, and just a bunch of other things. And I would always say to him, like, dude, you gotta just throw this out there, like, just get it out there. And he always had the intention on doing so. And I remember he was a insurance agent, right? So he made pretty decent money as a insurance agent. And eventually he ended up starting up his own insurance company in New York. He was in the Bronx, New York, and ended up starting up a storefront. But his passion was in copywriting. His passion was in marketing. And he would say to me, Ty, I'm just doing this for the time being until I get things right. Now, mind you, we had spoken over probably a 10 to 12 year period, right? I had lived in Connecticut when I first met him. We moved to North Carolina. It was over a 12-year period, and he was still, over a decade, he was still planning. He was still making sure that everything was right. He would say, man, I need to make sure that I have, my site lined up. I had to make sure that I have my registration, my opt-in forms lined up right. I had to make sure that I had the content created right. I even gave him access to a lot of my resources and the team members that I use, and copywriters and site designers and things like that. And long story short, as I'm going through my emails just now, looking for this email confirmation from the Hard Rock Cafe, I see one of the final emails that I get from him. And it was with one of his final products that he had, created, that he intended to put out into the space, right, into the universe. As I'm flipping through it, I couldn't help but think, like, this was the last email that I got from him. He ended up passing and dying in his sleep. I think it was 34 years old. And he ended up dying from sleep apnea. 34 years old. One of the most brilliant marketers that I've ever come across. And I've come across some extremely talented people. People that do extremely well in business. People that have made, tens of millions. And this guy from the Bronx, New York, he was a Dominican guy, and he came from the hood, came from not the best background. Him and I had a bond because of our love for copywriting, marketing. But I also found out that, like me, his sister was born with sickle cell anemia. And his sister had a tough time dealing with her sickle cell anemia, not only personally, but then she also had a kid, her son had sickle cell anemia. And, as me and Darius built our relationship, his nephew, his sister's son, died at the age of 13 from sickle cell anemia. So that kind of solidified our bond even more. I got to meet his sister, and we talked, and his sister ended up sending me a message on Facebook and saying, hey, Darius passed. And it was a moment where it just, like, everything stopped for me. I felt the heartache in her message to me. I ended up asking her if she could reach out to me. And we ended up talking. This was the first time I had ever spoken to his sister, because I had felt like I had known her through our conversations, the conversations that he and I had, and the similar journeys of her dealing her battle with sickle cell anemia, and then the death of her son. And as we talked, I could just hear the strength in her voice. And she said, my father had gotten a call from his office one day. And he said Darius didn't show up for work. He didn't come into the office, the insurance company that he owned, which was unlike him. His father ended up going to his apartment in the Bronx and ended up finding his son dead. So I found the heartache in his sister sharing that story with me. And then as I'm thinking about what that must have been like for his father, and the thing that I thought about the most was this individual who had all of this experience, who had all of this material, all of this greatness to share with the planet, he never got it out there. He never got it out there because he just didn't think that he had it. He didn't think that he was qualified enough. He didn't think that his material was enough to serve the world. And here I am, I'm thinking, man, my stuff can't hold a candle to the stuff that he's putting out. I remember when he first opened up, well, actually, no, not when he first opened up the insurance agency, but I remember speaking to him. He was, like I said, he was an insurance agent. And he told me, I think he was making like $100,000 a year or something. And this was just 5 years ago, because he just passed about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe, right before the pandemic. And I said to him, I said, Darius, man, the problem that you have right now is there's several things. Number one, your job is your golden parachute. You will always go back to your job, because he used to quit and then try to work on his business, work on his business, and he always knew that he had that money that he can go back to. So that's the worst thing ever. And I'm not advising anyone to quit their job, but I think that when you have a safety net, it helps you and prevents you from being a little bit more courageous, for taking chances. Tony Robbins talks about that the most successful people on the planet aren't people that have all of the resources, but people that are the most resourceful. When your back is up against the wall, think about every situation in your life, right? You had to be resourceful. My friend Darius never got to share his message. Like, he never got to share his brilliance because he had this parachute, number one. But even more than that, more of an anchor than that was the fact that he tried to make it too perfect. Like, he wanted things, he was over-analyzing, over-obsessing. And I actually feel bad, because there were many times when we would talk and I would get frustrated. There's times when I wouldn't even answer the phone sometimes when he would call, because I already knew that he would ask me the same questions that he asked me 50 times before. Like, Ty, do you think my headline is right? Ty, do you think that my subject line is right? Do you think that the content is good enough? Do you think that people will buy it at this price point? All the little things that entrepreneurs and people who want to be entrepreneurs obsess over without ever just going out there and throwing it out there. He died without ever sharing his message. Like, he died without ever sharing the brilliance that he has. And the thing about this is, we're all living right now as if we're never going to die. Like, we're all living, including me, we're all living with brilliance and amazingness inside of us, but we're playing around, we're fucking around with it as if we're never going to die, and as if we know exactly when we're going to die. No one knows exactly when they're going to die. And I share this with you because this person that I got a chance to meet, and like, we never even met in person. We had plans he was going to come and visit me one time at the house, and we were going to just really build up like a mastermind. But you ever met someone who has this talent in whatever area it is, and they're wasting the God-given talent that they have because they don't think that they're good enough for it? I'm telling you right now that you are good enough. There's not a lot of people that are going to receive this. There are probably 2 to 3% of the individuals that will watch this that will actually receive it. I'm asking you, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to be, whatever it is that you want to have, to go out there and do it now. Stop fucking around. Do it now, because you don't know when you're going to die. If this resonated with you, if it has helped you in any way, let me know in the comments. I don't want this to happen to anyone else. I don't want anyone else to leave this planet without them being able to shine and share and grow. Because by you growing, you spawn seeds for many other people to grow. You encourage hundreds and thousands and probably tens of thousands, right, through osmosis of other individuals to grow. So go ahead and grow.